Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I call our recess meeting to order, and we will have the invocation by Dr. Freddie Williamson.
Good morning. May we pray. Eternal God of the universe, the creator of the heavens and earth, we thank you for
Good
this.
morning.
Thank you for
Good morning.
Good morning. I call our recess meeting to order.
Didn't we just do that?
Yeah, but someone coming on board. Continue, Dr.
somebody
Weaver.
was
You were doing
praying.
so wonderful.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So we'll start. Eternal God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for life, health, and strength.
Yes,
Thank you
Jesus.
for who you are, that we can trust, lean, and depend on you. You are our Heavenly Father. Continue to bless us, lead us, and guide us. Bless this world, bless this nation, bless our President, Donald Trump. Bless this school system and our board members. We thank you for your goodness, for your mercy and grace. We pray that you would please remember our servicemen and women in service all over this world. Have thy way in this world and in our life. Lead, God, and protect us. Bless us in this meeting on this day. In Christ's name we pray.
Amen.
Hey, we will continue with our agenda. Next on our agenda, we have approval. May we get approval at this time?
Madam Chairman, I make I make a motion, we approve the agenda that we have before us.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the agenda that we have before us. Are there any questions? If none, all in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Hank, aye.
Barbara,
Della, aye.
Rosa, aye.
All opposed, nay. So ayes have it. So this agenda has been approved. At this time, we will continue, and I ask Dr. Williamson with our action item. We turn it over to him.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. We have one action item for this morning. You should have two documents available to you. One is the High School Athletic Association Modified Sports Regulation, and the second is our return to play plan based on COVID-19. We have our County Athletic Director, Mr. Gary Brigman, and we have our athletic man in training, Mr. Bridges, with us to share this information. Stop us at any point in time that we can answer any questions for you. At the end of the presentation, our intent is that we're going to ask you to bless the plan that we can start some level of skill development training today. Gary?
Okay.
And happy Monday to you, and hope everybody enjoyed the sports yesterday. And well, I sure did, and I enjoyed watching it all day. And hopefully we can get Hope County schools back to playing some kind of level of sports. We're going to go through a few slides with you, and I'm hoping.
Gary, before you go through the slide, can you update the board? You had a regional athletic director meeting last week. Talk about that briefly.
Okay. Yes.
Just to get the mindset of what's going on in the.
Yep. Everyone in our league is where we are right now. We came together last Thursday at Turlington, and we had a lengthy meeting. We worked on schedules, and we talked about the reentry plan. It seems like everyone in our league is headed out the same direction. We were real tickled to death that they are using our plan for the most part to start their reentry. Cumberland County schools, Robinson County schools, Scotland County schools are all headed that direction. We're excited about getting started, and we're going to kind of walk in to our reentry kind of slow-like, and then we're going to kind of pick it up as we go. But we all are headed that direction. Hope County schools are headed that way. Dr. Williams and I and Mr. Edwards and Mr. Bridges, we worked on a plan and went over it several times, and we're gonna try to give it to you and let you take a look at it. So what you see on this slide here is the tentative, calendar from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. Some of you may have seen it. It came out, basically when the governor went into a 2.5 phase. It gave us, some ideas of when the sports is gonna start and when it's gonna end. It gave us some parameters, that we had to work with, and encouraged us to start working on schedules. We received an email from the executive director last week encouraging the conference presidents to start work on schedules, and that's what we did. We all have a schedule in place now. All we need to do is run it. Some of the problems that we had, they're really not problems, but some of the things that we had to work around. One is Christmas, obviously. Christmas is falling right in the middle of volleyball season, so we're going to have to, some of our folks are going to have to play during Christmas break as well as Thanksgiving. We kind of worked around some Thanksgiving and having a Monday, Tuesday match to kind of take care of that week. So there was a lot of work to be done as far as working around these items. Also, we took into consideration at the end of the semester and exams. We're trying to figure that out, as well as the transportation component that we're going to kind of run into a little bit later on, knowing that our transportation is going to be challenged as well. There's nothing going to change as far as transportation. We're going in Hope County schools, we're going to treat transporting athletic teams the same way we transport our children to school. We just may have to use one or two more extra buses to do this, and we're willing to do that to make sure our kids get there safely. Moving into the spring part of the season, some of the challenges we had obviously are overlapping sports. We had to work with that a little bit. They're going to overlap with some of the sports in the spring to try to get them all in. Obviously, we had to work through Easter. We plan to play football on Good Friday, and we've also planned to play football on Easter week. That would be the last.
Question, Gary, what slide are we supposed to be looking at?
This one right here is fine. It's kind of
I don't have
over
one.
slide, yeah, and so just kind of give you an idea about the schedules, Mr. Richards, but just kind of going through the whole year, and so anyway, but yeah, just working with the challenges and throughout the whole calendar year is what I was trying to relay to you. And then if you see at the very end of the calendar, you're going to see that we're going to be playing sports past graduation. Probably a week graduation would be baseball and track. Even the week of graduation, obviously we're going to have to move some ball games to accommodate that, but that's kind of the way it worked out and everything.
Before you move, using this schedule, this calendar as designed by the High School Athletics Association, provide coverage for us because we're all going past graduation a week.
So now your camera's off.
Right,
Yeah.
so unless we stay with this calendar, we're liable.
I don't hear, am I in the right meeting?
That's exactly.
Maybe it is different meeting.
Ms. Murkison, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Oh, good.
I can. Do you want to respond to that again, what we said? We're going to stay with this calendar because that provides a protection for us, liability issues and all of that.
Yeah, with sticking to this calendar by the High School Athletic Association, you can, it's a workaround around your standard school year calendar. So I'd recommend sticking with this calendar if you're going to be resuming sports.
Well, this is the calendar that the whole state of North Carolina is going to be following. Everybody in our league and conference, they have graduations already set. end of the school year with their calendar. Some are earlier than ours, some are later than ours, but for the most part, the calendar does run past it. The next slide you see is the middle school schedule. Dr. Williamson and I talked a little bit about this, and we feel like that we need to have middle school athletics. And I developed a schedule for our middle school athletics, and it's a real productive schedule. We like it a lot. We're going to try to stay inside of the Hope County bubble. We will not play Scotland County schools, Richmond County schools, or Anson County schools this year. They have no indication that they're going to have middle school athletics. So we thought we'd just kind of stay inside our county. We'll play each school twice. In football, we'll play 4 games, which is not really off to what we normally play. They play normally 5 or 6 games at the most. One of the things that we talked about due to the lights and being able to play in the evening hours when daylight savings time has come in is that Sandy Grove Middle will host all the middle school games, and we'll be able to use their lights to finish the games up. I think that's a really good idea. It will give us a central point, and the seating is very, we have seating there that we can spread people out to be able to watch games if it permits us to have fans. We're not sure if the governor's going to allow us to have fans yet. Right now, that's limited, but we're hoping that by this time the fans could come in so that we can work with that. We did put together a basketball schedule where they play each other twice. It's a 6-week schedule. Each team will get a bye in there, obviously, because we have 3 teams. We put together the football schedule as well as a volleyball and baseball and soccer and softball. We do have a golf schedule sprinkled in. Our 2 golf coaches at the high school are going to work with the kids. We work with the bayonet. They're going to play a round, like 2 individual tournaments, not tournaments, but individual play out there. That would give them ample time to actually get some golf in. We will have wrestling at the end of the year. If it's still permissible by our High School Athletic Association, we put wrestling at the end so that we have some more guidelines to follow. Obviously, wrestling is probably the most dangerous sport as far as body-to-body contact. It's at the end of the year in case they have to cancel it. You know, we can and not be so. The one thing we haven't put in is the track schedule, and I was going to meet with the middle school ADs tomorrow, and I wasn't real sure about the athletes where they participate, which athletes that participate in track. We will run a track schedule, but it's to be determined at a later date, but it'll probably be determined tomorrow when I got the ADs together, and they can give me some more information on where to put it. We could put it in the fall. It's not a problem. We can attach it there, or maybe somewhere, you know, where we can get the athletes. We want everybody to be involved without having to choose between sports, and if you understand that. So we're really excited about the middle school schedule. Middle schools can get started with their skill development. We're going to leave that up to their ADs. We're going to try to school them on it tomorrow about what it takes to bring the kids back on campus and make sure that they're safe. A lot of the middle school folks do not use skill development as much as the high school folks do. So we're kind of going to leave it up to the ADs to try to figure that out, how they want to do it. Okay. Our next slide is our Hope High School's return to participation. It's one that we kind of took from another school and modified it to what we want to try to do. We're going to divide everything up into a red-black day, which is going to be like a Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday deal. As you see, we're talking about volleyball and cross country. If we start up today, volleyball will be starting today. Cross country will come in tomorrow, and we're going to kind of feather everything, all the other sports in every week so that we have a better control on what we're trying to do. We want to start today, the red days and the black days. It's obviously going to cull the numbers down. The workout sessions is 90 minutes. We got guidelines that we're going to follow. Mr. Bridges, my athletic trainer, is going to kind of go through some of those guidelines with you in the next few slides. We're going to work out just 4 days a week, which is Monday through Thursday. Friday, we're not going to have any kids on campus. It's a cleaning day. We try to keep that kind of separate. So we're working real close to kind of the schedule that Dr. Baldwin has at the high school. If you see the parentheses, the date in the parentheses by each sport, that's the date that they can go live. We call that a live date. And say, for example, volleyball will become live. Is that November? Yeah, November the 5th. I can't. 4th. November the 4th. And so what that means is that when they go live, they can go 4 days a week. Because
Garrett, is that November or October?
October. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can't see. But yeah, it is October, and it's October the 5th. And so therefore, that's when they're going to go live, because they start playing November the 5th, a month out. That means they can practice and work out 4 days a week. And so we try to give the teams ample time to get prepared for the season, and that's a month out. And so that's how we're going to determine that they can come every day.
So Greg, I want us to be clear, up until October the 5th, we're going to practice AB.
Yes, sir.
To control the class size. On October the 5th, then the full team will be able to come together and practice.
Just that team that we indicate, right. The volleyball and the cross country. And then if you see the next two teams that will be coming full-time will be basketball and men's basketball and women's basketball. But at the time that they're going full, volleyball and cross country would be in their schedule. They'll be running their schedule. So it kind of keeps rolling like that. And then whenever basketball goes into their schedule, we're going to start bringing football and men's soccer into a 4-day thing. So it's kind of works itself in a little wheel. That's the way it's kind of playing.
So that gives us 30 days of whole team practice.
Yes, sir.
Prior to the start of the season is what we're at.
As long as they stay inside the phase 2.5 guidelines, and we're going to talk about that later, there is a number limitation on that and how they do it. It's going, like I said, it's going to be a lot of work involved in it, and we feel like we can do this. But that's the understanding of the parentheses and the dates in between, is to make sure that we kind of bring things in nice and slow.
Any questions on that? Because that's a key for us.
Yeah.
Mr. Bridges, anything to add to?
Okay. The some of the general notes is we do have a dead period involved. The dead period is obviously during the exam week at the end of the semester. That means no skill development, but we will be playing athletics during that time. But we can't make the schedule dead, but we can make our skill development dead, our practice is dead. That's a statewide decision. Any kind of skill development at the end of the semester, which is exam week, we stop it, make sure our kids are focusing on exams and not something that we're having. The biggest thing that we're kicking around, if you notice, all this is during where daylight savings time is gone. We don't have a whole lot of light left in the day when we're going to get started at 4:30. Some of the sports are moving inside, so we kind of wrestling with that idea. That's something that we're going to have to deal with when it comes around. We've been working with Dr. Williamson and Mr. Edwards a little bit about some situations. that we know we're gonna have to probably figure out some lighting issues, that we're gonna have, as we go as we move forward into the skill development. But that's here to say, we're hoping. The swim thing, as you see down there, right now, St. Andrews is up in the air. We're not sure if they're gonna open up their aquatic center back. Their aquatics coach left. Right now, it's closed down. We're not sure where we're gonna do or what we're gonna do. We do know that Lake Rim pool complete. We're not sure if our two schools from Jack Britt and 71st will be able to host meets there. We have talked about taking our kids to the Y in Fayetteville and doing some workouts there. We're working on that right now, working out the logistics. So we're not sure what St. Andrews is going to do. We're in contact with their athletic director to speak right now.
Gary, let me ask you this: Have you been getting any inquiries from the parents or from students about playing? Do you think you're going to have enough people to play?
Yes, I do. It's funny that you mentioned that. We had a Zoom last night. We had about 60 parents in the Zoom that are asking lots of really good questions. Mr. Bridges and I and the few coaches that were involved in it feels pretty good. The communication between our coaches and our players are strong. They meet with them twice a week in a Zoom, either that way or any kind of a social media setting like Twitter, giving them information. I really believe, Ms. McAllister, that the kids are ready to play, the parents are ready to play. The key thing was the amount of parents we had in our Zoom last night was very encouraging. And so okay. I feel pretty good about that. As you see up there on the screen now, we have a varsity girls volleyball. You can see how the schedule is set up. And, it's pretty self-explanatory, except the dates are not common with what we normally do. As you see, the last playing date's January the 7th. The volleyball was probably the most difficult one to work with because of trying to work through Thanksgiving and work through Christmas, which we normally do with our basketball. We always have difficulties working on our basketball schedule now. It's our volleyball schedule.
So let me ask you this, and
okay.
I guess this is to Dr. Williamson as well. I was on Good Morning America this morning, and the young man was playing football, and and he died, but he died of a brain. They said he died of a brain aneurysm, but he had COVID for 10 days. Now, of course, they're going to push the COVID. And I'm wondering how, so the mother gets on on television and say, please wear your mask. Now, the child died of a brain aneurysm, and anytime someone has COVID, they're going to push the COVID first. And I'm wondering, how do we? I don't know. I don't even know my question anymore.
Yeah. Let us roll through the presentation, because I think we're going to answer that question. The documentation that you see we're requiring for a temperature check, all the things that students must do to enter the building for classes, they will have to do the same types of things for the athletic complex. So I think the answer to your question is we'll have documentation that no, the student did not have a fever and didn't show any symptoms, all those kinds of things. Okay. But that's a great question, that of being blamed, and we're dealing with that every single day. And then the tracing part of it through the health department will always tell us where somebody, contracted that.
Okay.
Great question.
Yeah.
Hold that.
Yeah.
I think we'll answer it for you in the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is good. And I got Derek Bridges, our athletics trainer. He's going to kind of go through the procedures as far as the screening of our athletes and what we're going to expect and how we're going to handle the the actual reporting to play. So here's Mr. Bridges.
Good morning, board members. What you see in front of you
Good morning.
on your screens or iPads, whatever you may be using, these are the requirements for athletic participation. This is not just at the high school. This will also this will also be a requirement at the middle schools. They must have a valid athletic physical and forms on file prior to their arrival for participation. Upon arrival to the venues, they must have their own personal face mask, whether it's a cloth mask or some of the dry fit stretch masks that we're starting to see more often now, some type of face covering. They must have their own personal water bottle or jug. One thing that has come up is how are we going to do hydration? How are we going to allow our kids to have adequate water breaks? We will not be allowed to share water bottles and things of that such going forward, so we're putting an emphasis on them arriving with their own water bottle or jug and having their own personal clothing or towels. So in order to decrease some type of spread, if we have it, they must come with their own personal clothing and or towels.
Let me come back to the personal water bottle. I noticed this weekend, high school teams were playing, and they had their fluids in the backpack sprayers, and so that's how kids was getting water in that, which we can do. This will be a whole lot quicker, easier, and safer to do.
Can somebody mute their phone?
That might be something we can do.
Yeah.
Is just to have our fluids in that backpack designated for that.
Like a hockey backpack.
That's right, so that kids can.
We're getting a lot of feedback. Could we have people mute their phones if they're not talking?
That's my puppy barking.
Can you mute your phone, please?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a camping backpack in a little tube.
Going forward, what we're asking some of the middle schools or all the middle schools to set up, we have these already at the high school, and we're going to have some more across campus, is setting up a central checkpoint or location, preferably in the front of their building or their venue, for all their participants to pass through to ensure that all of them have been accounted for prior to entering those facilities. So the illustration that you see is using the cones and chains to make a entrance way to let our participants know where they should be coming to check in for their participation. As far as the check-in protocol, when students arrive to our venues, for our middle schools, we know that they don't drive. So if they are off campus, the driver must wait for that student to clear the check-in protocol in case we need to send them home for some type of invalid screening. The same thing applies at the high school. We know we have a lot of kids that are online that would like to participate. So if they have a driver, the driver must wait for them to clear the check-in protocol. If for some reason we have to send them home for an invalid screening, the driver is still there and we don't have to make additional phone calls for them to get a ride home. Also, a part of that check-in protocol, and we'll see this on the next slide, for our middle schools, they're going to use an attendance tool that has been created in Google Forms, similar to how we're going to use at the high school. For documentation purposes, there's a section for temperature checks, similar to how it is when they arrive to campus for school, as well as the daily COVID screening questions, asking if they have a fever, chills, so on and so forth, and you'll see an example on the next slide. If there's any issue or any type of red flags in number 2, the student will be sent home and not be allowed to return to athletics until they get the proper clearance paperwork from a medical doctor.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
If the student is sent home for athletic reasons, will he be able to return to regular classes?
or will that hold as well?
That would apply for the next day. The answer is no, they cannot until we find some type of clearance. Great question. What would trigger us sending, like you just saw, a student home would be a temperature or symptoms. So again, it's just another cross check. But no.
What does the temperature? I mean, because people can have a temperature and not have COVID. So I know that's a symptom, though.
Yeah.
But
That's correct, and we run across a lot of that now that there's an elevated temperature. What we say is you must go home for 3 days because, again, if it's going to develop, we'll know it in 3 days beyond just because a lot of the temperatures we're finding are sinus and that type. But you're absolutely right. But our initial conversation is you got to go home for 3 days, and if you've been home for 3 days, symptom-free, you don't have a fever and you didn't take any medication to reduce the fever, and then you'll probably be all right because, again, we're going to check the temperature every single day. But Ms. Bowie, the right question to ask us, if we have a problem with an athlete and they're face-to-face, they will not be allowed back on campus for at least 3 days. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Thank you.
What you see next is the daily COVID screening tool that will be used and shared with our middle school ADs that can be shared for each individual sport. It is the same questions that's going to be asked to our high school kids. Those screening questions, again, is have you had any fever or chills? Have you had a cough? But it gives us that documentation that we mentioned earlier, so that way we have something to cover us just in case a child just so happens to contract COVID. We have some type of documentation to make sure that we have done everything on our side to ensure that that kid was safe.
Question.
Yes.
I'm wondering why we don't, for the requirements, why couldn't we require them to actually take a COVID test for free before they even start? And would that be illegal or something?
No, not to my knowledge. We can.
Well, let me ask the attorney. I mean, so we can, they didn't start with it, and we know that. So instead of just saying, you got to wash your hands, you got to take this temperature check, you got to do, because they're going to be in close contact. And I'm wondering why, I see that it's supposed to start today, but if this has been talked about for a period of time, and I don't know how long, I'm wondering why we didn't get them to go ahead and take the COVID test. Dr. Smith is doing them for free. People are doing them for free.
I think I'm not a healthcare provider. There's no legal impediment to providing COVID tests. From a practical perspective, I think that it can give people a false sense of security because all that a COVID test tells you is that you are negative that day. And you could be exposed a week ago and be negative today, but be positive tomorrow. So it wouldn't change our other procedures. But you're correct that testing up front would be good, but it's only valid for that short period of time.
Okay.
We will make a recommendation for our students to do the COVID testing. I understand that there's a lot of local providers that are doing the testing, but we can't make it a requirement because we don't want to interfere with any type of parental guidelines or anything like that, trying to force something upon our kids. But it does give you that sense of false positive of when you may have been infected, or if the test comes out negative but you're still symptomatic. It gives us a lot of other gray areas that we wouldn't know how to address them.
And then to your question, the health department, they're close to being ready for the rapid response. That is a one-day turnaround. So again, if some of those other variables exist, temperature, fever, those kinds of things, we will automatically have that student athlete, like we're doing for our students to take that test. And so again, if there's any concerns, any questions, we do require that they take the test now.
Okay.
Next, what you see is the example we're using at the high school, which is just a little bit different from the middle school. We're using the online platform of Final Forms, where we're allowing all of our students to register prior to participation. That same health screening is going to be digitized, and we will have that same documentation as we have at the middle school. It's the same questions, and we have that same electronic documentation. So if we have any type of situation where we need to go back and cover ourselves or look to any type of situation where a child may have been exposed, we have some type of record for who they were around, what group they may have been in, which could help us with contact tracing and getting them referred over to the health department.
Did they do that form every day?
Yes, that is a part of the attendance as with the screening tool and the check-in. If for any reason we have someone who is symptomatic, they will be sent home with either one of these forms, and this is a clearance form that they will have to return with prior to their participation into athletics. So if we have some type of situation where a child does not have a temperature but they have symptoms, we can give them the clearance form, and that's what they have to bring back with the medical sign-off. So that is another form of documentation that we'll have in addition to the screenings that have been taking place. A big emphasis is identifying entrances and exits to our venues. As you can see here, there's a map, a sky map of the McDonald gym. Once volleyball is able to go back into the McDonald gym, they will enter through Buck Alley or that side parking lot and come down our athletic hallway. That will be the entrance. They'll do their workout within the gym, but they will exit through the front of the building and then be picked up in front of the school to separate both of our entrances and exits to those venues. Therefore, we can decrease any type of opportunity for cluster for the attendees. We have one entrance and one exit, so we know who has come in and then who needs to leave. That will also need to be identified at our middle schools the best way that they can, whether it's one entrance to the gym and another exit out of the gym. That is for them to determine. In phase 2.5, the governor has given us the ability to open our locker rooms if we choose to. When we have participants that enter, they must have a mask on while they're inside. If for any reason they need to take it off to change clothes or it becomes some type of hazard while they're inside, that is at their discretion, but once they get situated, they are required to put it back on in order for them to exit. Students may enter in small pods or groups depending upon the size of the locker room, so we're talking about maybe 8 to 10 people max about going in and coming out before the next group goes in, and then requiring them to maintain 6 feet distance while they're inside. And so with that may be 2 or 3 lockers in between each student, which may cut down the number of small pods and groups. Our coaches are just going to have to work through that to see if they continue to want to use the locker room as it is available to them.
We're hoping that a lot of the teams will come dressed as much as possible to cut down on needing to be in the locker room, correct?
Yes. Phase 2.5 allowed us a little bit more with gathering limitations. As stated earlier, our workout or practice sessions will only be 90 minutes. There's no exceptions to this. This is a guideline coming from the High School Athletic Association. Inside a facility or gym, using that as an example, we will have a max of 25 personnel. That includes all coaches, all players, all managers, everyone who was in attendance at that time. We are maxing it at 25. We encourage our coaches to do as much outside work as possible because we have the limitation of 50, which will allow more people to participate and allow more of our coaches to be there as possible. Students can be grouped in those different pods to adhere to participation. So as Mr. Brigman stated earlier, with volleyball on Monday and Wednesday, if our head coach, Coach Huey, wants to split up the girls 15 and 15 because she has a max number of 30, she does have the ability to do that between the 2 days. She would just have to communicate that with her girls. Face coverings and mask wearing, as you saw earlier, it is required upon entry to the venue or to the field. If they do not, they will not be allowed in. Once they leave, they will have to have their mask on or face covering on in order to leave the facility. The only time that masks will not be worn is when they are engaged in physical activity. So anything that's running, jogging, anything to do with the stadium, anything that is engaging in physical activity is when they do not have to wear a mask. But we will require that they maintain 6 feet distance in between each group and each pod while they're doing their physical activity. They will have to have them on if the coach is deciding to do a drill demonstration or any type of group or team talk. They'll have their mask on while maintaining 6 feet distance. So it may be a large circle, but we want to make sure that everybody is remaining safe. And we always put the emphasis on, please do not share masks between students. There will be no sharing between students.
Question.
Yes.
I know we've asked the students to kind of be responsible for their own masks, but will you or someone have extra masks in case the student really starts sneezing or something and won't have to put that same nasty mask back on?
Yes,
we have
ma'am.
extras around.
Yes. We will have additional resources for them if need be, and we will do the best we can to make sure that that student athlete gets what they need, and we keep safety as the number one priority.
Thank
Let me ask a question. So you made reference earlier to transportation, to get on the bus to travel, temperature check, sanitize their hands, masks have to be on, right? So, and then one person per seat.
Right.
So we're just going to emulate what we're doing already. That's worked well for us with transporting our students now. So one of my questions is, for visiting teams come to us, we're going to check their temperature also. We're not going to take their word that they don't have a temperature. So we'll have additional personnel that will check visiting teams' temperature, ask those questions, just, to make sure that everybody's safe.
Absolutely. And that was discussed in the AD meeting that we had earlier. There will be some screening going on whenever schools are coming to our facility. One of the big issues, I think I stated earlier, was, cross country is going to be run at 2:00. I've already moved one of our matches that we were hosting at 2:00. We don't really want our outside students running on our campus during the school day. I don't think Dr. Baldwin would permit that. So we've already kind of moved one of our matches where it would be run some other place in an off-campus situation.
In regards to personal hygiene and sanitation, hand sanitizer will be ready and available at all of our venues and workout locations, just so that we can continue with our constant sanitation and personal hygiene. We are encouraging all coaches, all students, all personnel, no spitting. That includes seeds, that includes phlegm. We understand if someone has to cough, we ask them that they cover their mouths as much as possible. Again, that goes back to having hand sanitizer ready and available. But absolutely no spitting, because it does send particles into the air. And the last bullet, there will be no use of whistles. The whistles do require air projected from our lungs, which does contain particles. So we have been encouraged to use electronic noisemakers or electronic whistles for our indoor sports. They can use the scoreboard horn as an indication to stop a drill or in replacement of a whistle. Athletic equipment usage, we are being allowed to use or the sharing of equipment in small groups and pods, but our teams are required to do disinfecting frequently during the use in the pods or before that piece of equipment is used by another pod. There will be no protective equipment used with football during this session, during this phase. Hopefully that will open up once we get closer to the season or further toward the end of the year. As you can see, some of the examples at the bottom with volleyball, which would be the same as soccer, they can be used, balls can be used in pods, but there will be no sharing across groups. For basketball, they have lightened up a little bit with the limitation of ball sharing within the pod, but there will be no physical contact between one participant and another, still maintaining that 6 feet distance. Football, with passes and handoffs, they will have two separate pieces of equipment for those groups. The quarterback to the running back, that will be one group, that will be one ball. Quarterback to the receivers, that will be one group, one ball. There will be constant disinfecting that will take place during those drills. Preferably once they finish one drill, they disinfect and move on to the next. Another encouragement is that all of the players, if possible, wear gloves. If we can limit actual touching or skin-to-skin touching to the equipment, we encourage them to wear gloves. This last slide is just the additional guidelines information. If there's something that we want to emphasize or we need to look back at, the High School Athletic Association has allowed us this PDF guidelines for us to look to and refer to.
So some of the things are encouraged not to do, like spitting, and other things are required. What do you do when you get those coaches that's going to be rebellious?
We have a good, strong talk with them and see if they really want to be part of this. You know, I got no problem shutting this thing down if they don't want to follow our guidelines. And we've already made it very, very clear with them. We met with them Friday, and we went through this whole process with them and made them understand that if we're going to keep this open, we got to have their cooperation, and also they have to follow what we're going to be doing. And by all means, Mr. Bridges, myself, we're going to have our eyes open, and we're going to be looking and observing. And if we see things out of line, we'll speak to them and warn them that, hey, you know, if this is continuing to happen, we'll shut it down. We'll shut it down in a hurry. Okay. But we've gone over this with our coaches Friday. They seem like they're all good. I mean, they know the same presentation that you saw. We gave it to our coaches. We gave them opportunity to respond and get and ask us questions, and also the parents. And like I said to you, we shared it with them in the Zoom last night. And then once we, you know, if it's approved by you, we're going to try to get it on our website so that our parents, if they missed out on anything, they can go back and take a look and refer to it.
One thing that we emphasized as well on Friday is that our coaches, as well as any other staff, we are the example. We have to set that for our kids. And so we are requiring that our coaches abide by these guidelines and show our kids that we're putting forth the best example and guidelines to keep safety first. Great. So our coaches have to be those examples in order for our kids to follow those guidelines.
Rose, I love the question. We have continued to pay our coaches their supplement. even though we didn't have participation in those sports. So some of the things that will not happen, we will not have outside individuals working with any of our teams. All of the
Okay.
work will be done by our coaches. We feel we have a right to ask them to do that simply because we never
Right.
stop their supplemental pay. We are going to monitor the coaches because if there's a breakdown, we already know the system to check in will work because it's working daily in our buildings. So we're going to monitor our coaches, but if we have a coach that's not following the guideline, then we're going to pull that coach and not allow that individual to coach. We just cannot put students at risk, but we think we have an obligation to allow them to return to play according to this plan. But a great question. But we're going to monitor our coaches and simply not put up with any of that. And we've already said to every coach, you will support each other's athletic program and do this work.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? Please share those thoughts with us. We think that we can make this work. So we're going to disinfect the gym every afternoon, Roger, like we're doing now.
Absolutely.
And all of that.
Locker room. Yes, all our areas, classrooms,
Uh,
offices.
Gary, if there is a safe sport during this pandemic, I think it would be track. And going back to the middle school, I'd like to see that, that schedule pursued. And also, I guess really the only heartburn I have is with wrestling. Very close contact, not just during matches, but during practice. Of course, I notice it's not on the schedule to March, so we have some time there. Hopefully things will improve greatly by then, but I think we need to keep a close watch on whether or not we even have wrestling.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Richards, to address that, from the state, that was a big indication of why they pushed wrestling to the end of the season. It was a lot of talks about actually doing away with wrestling as a whole, but they do understand that there will be a lot of people upset and a lot of coaches will be discouraged from the sport. But they want to see how are things going to open up, how are things going to progress, and can wrestling actually take place sometime this athletic season year.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Our major concern, I'll be honest, our online students who have not been in our building during the day, have not had the temperature check until they show up at the athletic fields. But again, our protocols will catch all of that. But we've had a lot of conversation, even do we allow online students to participate? The answer we think has to be yes. We can't deny that.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, we've had a lot of conversation about our online students who want to show up and participate. So we've got to make sure that we follow all of our procedures in that. Any other questions, any concerns? If you notice, we did not and have not talked about fans and parents watching. We hope to share something with you in October, if that's possible. We're doing some work now in terms of marking off our spots 6 feet and our bleachers and all of that. So hopefully we'll have that presentation for you in October. What we're asking for this morning is that you will approve our plan for returning to sports, practicing and playing, as we shared with you this morning. That is my request.
Ms. Pickett?
It looks like she's muted.
Okay. Ms. Pickett, can you hear us?
She's dropped off the call.
And can Mr. Richards go ahead and take the,
Go ahead.
motion?
Yeah.
And then we can get, a vote from Ms. Pickett. So, board members, I am requesting approval of our return to play, return to sport based on our COVID-19 plan as we shared with you this morning, please.
Board members, you heard the request of our superintendent. What is the wish of the board? May I have a
Chair, I
motion?
request that we approve the Atlantic Return to Sports Entry Plan with Return to Sports COVID-19 plan
Thank you,
for this
Della.
year.
May I have a second?
Question.
Thank you, Barbara. All in favor?
Athletic? Della, did you mean athletic rather than Atlantic?
Kim, Barbara?
We're breaking up, but all in favor by name, please.
Barbara Bowie. My question is, did I understand Della to say Atlantic rather than athletic?
Athletic.
I don't know. We were breaking up at the time. Della, will you please state your motion again?
Yes, I make a motion that we, at the Athletic Return to Sport Entry Plan, we return to sport COVID-19 plan for
Thank
this
you.
year.
May I have a second again, please?
Second.
Thank you, Barbara.
Barbara, second.
All in favor by name, please.
Della, aye.
I got,
Rosa, aye.
Thank you, Rosa. Did I hear from Barbara or an Irish?
Barbara, aye.
Hank, aye. Evidently, Irish is still offline.
we can record this as a 4-0 vote with you presiding.
Great,
That'll be fine. Thank you.
great. Thank you so much. Let me,
4-0 vote, motion carried.
great. Thank you. Let me thank Athletic Director and Ms. Bridges, certainly for the work that they've done, Roger, in putting this plan together. Now, I do want to share this with the board. If we have any issues whatsoever, please know that I will not hesitate that we stop this, that we're not participate if we can't follow the guidelines and that we can't keep everybody safe. So all this is an opportunity for our coaches and our student athletes to have the chance to play based on following the plan. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Anything further on athletics? If not, it brings us down to our administration, and we have one information item today, College Board information. Dr. Williamson?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Richard and members. Let me ask Dr. Register and Dr. Hunt if they would share our SAT results with you, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hopefully you can see the presentation that we have pulled up, or then the one that we have provided you access through the Assembly system. We're going to talk, Dr. Hunt is here with me so that we can talk about targeting high expectations, looking at our SAT information. Just the 2 points that we want to talk about was the SAT trend data, looking at over a couple of years, what's our trend with the SAT, and then also comparing our data to our benchmark systems, which is it's a total of 18, and then looking as well as our Sand Hills region. And I think there's about 14 in the Sand Hills region. So first, looking at our SAT trends. Here we want to talk about the SAT. The SAT actually measures the evidence-based reading and writing, and then the math sections. Normally, this is given to our 11th and 12th graders. The SAT is a college entrance exam. It's not a requirement for the state of North Carolina. As you know, several years ago, North Carolina shifted to the ACT.
ACT.
Being a requirement. So this is actual optional for kids to take the SAT. but it's mandated that all 11th graders take the ACT. And so we will be having some ACT results coming within probably another month or so from the state board. And whenever those results come, we will share those with you. But we just got the SAT results from the College Board. And the College Board is a nonprofit organization that supports the college entrance for high school students. And so, like I said before, the two areas would be the evidence-based reading and writing, and then your mathematics. You can see that we have the benchmark scores. So these are the expected scores for your evidence-based reading and writing, the 480, and then math 530. And then also we have shared with you the range in terms of what students can make on the SAT. Do you want to add anything?
Yep. I just like to add in the two bullets where it talks about the evidence-based reading and writing and the evidence or the math sections for students who meet those benchmark scores. It does state that if the students meet those benchmark scores or higher, they have a 75% chance of earning at least a C in the first semester credit-bearing college course classes in college.
Is there not an essay? Was there an essay to this at one point? Did they include an essay and then taken it out or something?
They did, but they constructed it where now you have more of constructed responses.
Okay.
So that's where they changed it to the evidence-based reading and writing.
Reading,
so
okay.
They want students to be able to read an article, read a text, and then respond.
And then analyze or articulate it.
That's right. Yes, ma'am. Versus what you're referring to is several years ago, it used to be where they would give them an arbitrary prompt.
Right.
And then students would have to just write based off of that prompt.
Right,
so now they want them to go deeper in terms of analyzing text.
Okay.
So yes, ma'am. So on the next slide, you can see where we are for the 2019-20 school year. Hope High with an overall score of the 959, and then Sandhope Early College 1121. And then as a district, we were at the 994. So we are well over, looking at our evidence-based reading and writing, we're well over the benchmark score. We do need to do some work with our math so that we can continue to meet that benchmark score. The participation rate, that refers to the number of kids that actually took the SAT, and like I said, it's optional for students to take it, and then they look at the percent based off of your seniors. And then you will see on one of our slides, we have the number of students that actually took the SAT.
And also, too, let's keep in mind that for 2019-20, the SAT was administered 4 times throughout the year, and that was during the fall semester, whereas this year for 2020-2021, it will be administered, or right now it is scheduled to be administered 8 times throughout the year. But that the other times during the spring semester were not administered due to COVID-19.
Okay.
So you can see our overall trend data for the past 3 years. When we go back to 2017, overall Hope County schools, we've been increasing. But for the 2020, we had a slight decrease of 4 points, and that's so we're looking at we need to do more in terms of our area of mathematics, making sure that we do have a laser focus on that. And I did include some strategies that we have or we are implementing. So overall, you can see where Hope High is. They had a total of 95 students that actually took the SAT, and then Sandhope had 13.
Shannon, let me ask you, we actually encourage our students to take the ACT. We think that's a better assessment, gives you a better indication of what to do.
That is true, and I was explaining to them that years ago, North Carolina used to be a SAT state, but now we have switched to the ACT, where we require all 11th graders to take the ACT.
And only the private universities do not accept that, or have that changed?
They do. They accept the ACT and the SAT, and I'm glad you brought that up. You know that there is a shift where some universities are not requiring a college entrance exam. They're looking more at the quality of courses that students are taking in terms of having access to advanced placement courses, having access to take college courses, and those scores in those courses.
And Shannon, the community college system is not really giving tests anymore. They're based on your GPA.
That's right.
So yeah, if you got like a 2.8 or higher, then they think you can tackle the freshman English and math 171, and if your GPA is 2.8 or higher.
Thank you for that, and that is correct. That's one of the indicators that a lot of universities and colleges are shifting to. But I mean, they still use at this point, a lot of them still use the SAT and the ACT. But for this slide, this is how we rank overall when it comes to our Sand Hills Region 4, as we compare ourselves to these school districts. And we remain the same as we were last year. We ranked number 7 out of the pack of about 14.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have a lot of work to do here. We're comparing ourselves to the 18. There's 18 of us, 17 plus hope will be 18. And here we rank number 10 out of the 18. And then there's some strategies that we are implementing. We utilize albertio.com. It's an online program that supports our advanced placement classes. It supports the ACT and SAT. They have a lot of resources that teachers use to implement. Also, we have put a lot of emphasis on literacy-based assignments. And so, as you can see with our SAT scores, we are well above the benchmark scores for this area when it comes to the evidence-based reading and writing. So one thing that we definitely have to continue to work on is the mathematics. We also have embedded ACT and SAT standards in our pacing guides for teachers, and then we also implement the College Board resource that they have. College Board has really increased their resources in terms of help using lesson plans and activities that teachers can implement in their lesson plans. So they have really increased and have a robust resources for our teachers. Any questions?
Thank you, Shannon and Dr. Hunt. Dr. Williamson?
Thank you.
Our goal is to crack the 1,000-point club. We'll get there. Any other questions on SAT? Great. Mr. Chairman and members, that concludes our information items for this morning, please.
Thank you.
Can you
Is
hear
this
me?
ticket online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We're down to closed session, Iris. I took over while you were evidently had a communication problem.
Thank you so much. I really did. Thank you. Okay, now we're down to closed session, and maybe we get a motion to go into closed session with Dr. Ramseur.
Yes, ma'am, I'm going to.
No, we need a motion. We need a motion to
So
go
we
into
need-
closed session.
Right.
We need a motion first.
Yes.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes.
It's Barbara. I move that we go into closed session for the item stated.
This is Hank. Second that.
Okay, it's been moved. Ms. Bowie and second that we go into closed session for the items that are stated. Are there any questions? If none, all in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Hank, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Rosa, aye.
Opposers, nay. Ayes have it. The ayes have it. So now we will go into closed session. Dr. Ramseur.
Ms. Pickett, was there any nays on that? Or did we have 5 ayes?
No nays at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Della, aye.
Hank, aye.
Opposed is nay, so we're now back into open session. Dr. Williamson?
Excuse me,
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. I'm requesting approval of the personnel action items that were shared by Dr. Thomas, please.
I'm sorry, Dr. Williamson, I didn't hear the motion for closed session. We were jumping back in. Did we get a 5-0 vote on that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Who made the motion?
Della made it, but I don't understand.
I made the motion. Della made the motion.
And who's?
I seconded. I'm Rosa.
Rose. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chairman and members, I'm requesting approval of the personnel action items as were shared by Dr. Thomas, please.
You heard the recommendation by our superintendent to approve the action items as shared by Dr. Thomas. May we get a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, Barbara.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
Second.
This is Rosa. I second.
It's been the motion made by Barbara, approved by Della, that we approve the action items as recommended by Dr. Williamson. All in favor, let it be. Are there any questions? If none, all in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Hank,
Della, aye.
Can we poll the board members, Madam Chair, for the record?
Yes, yes. One at a time, maybe get a motion from each board member.
Hank, aye.
Della, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Rosa, I.
Pickett, aye.
Thank you.
So all the ayes have it. So the motion has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman and members, I'm requesting contract renewal and amendment for the following employees as was presented to you: Dr. Deborah Dallas, Dr. Shannon Register, Mr. Roger Edwards, Dr. Donna Thomas, Ms. Juanette Chavis, Dr. Dawn Ramseur, and Jody Bryant, the cabinet, as we shared with you in close, please.
You've heard the recommendation from Dr. Williamson for a new contract for renewing and amending for himself and for his cabinet as named, Dr. Dallas, Dr. Register, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Thomas, Ms. Juanette Chavis, Dr. Ramseur, and Ms. Jody Bryant. May we get a motion to accept his recommendation, please?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Rosa.
Barbara, go ahead.
I did not hear Dr. Williamson included in that in his recommendation.
Do we need to do it all at once, or I was going to make or do each one separately?
Separately.
No,
Separately for Dr. Williamson.
Okay.
That's
Madam Chairman,
Wait, not
I
yet.
make a motion that we amend the contract of Dr. Williamson as
Hank, not yet.
Hold on 1 minute.
We need to, there's a motion on the floor. We need to address, we need a second, we need to get that motion first.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move that we renew and amend the contracts that was presented for Dr. Ramshaw, Dr. Register, Dr. Thomas, Roger Edwards, Juanette Chavis, Dr. Dallas, and Jody Bryant.
You've
Second.
It's been moved in second by Ms. Rosa McCray and second by Della Mena that we approve as namely the superintendent's cabinet. May we have any questions? If none, all in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye from each person.
Della, aye.
Hank, aye.
Rosa, aye.
Did Barbara say aye?
Barbara, aye.
Okay, and Pickett, aye. So, are there any questions concerning anyone? If none, let it be known. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
We just did
As I
that.
said, that opposers nay, so ayes will have it. Let me say this again, the cabinet has been approved for the renewing and for the amending of their contracts from 2020 to 2024.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. Thank you so much on behalf of the cabinet.
Madam Chairman,
You're welcome. Deserved it.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to amend Dr. Williamson's contract as discussed in closed session.
I second.
It's been moved by Mr. Richards and second by Ms. Rose McCouse-McCray that we approve Dr. Williamson new contract as renewing and amended for the 2020 to the 24th school year. Are there any questions? If none, all in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye individually.
Hank, aye.
Della, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Rosa, aye.
Pickett, aye. So the ayes have it. Contracts have been approved.
Yes.
Great.
Next on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members, so much for your support.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Williamson, and all of your cabinet members and staff for all the hard work that you have done. You're definitely deserving of this
Amen.
contract. So we will continue, Dr. Williamson, with the information items next on the agenda.
I do not have any report other than, again, thank you so much, and thank you for approving our return to play plan this morning. We will monitor that, and again, if we have an issue, we will stop that and try to correct whatever that issue might be. But thank you for that support. That is all that I have.
Okay, well, at this time here, we will schedule our next board meeting.
Ms. Pickett, before
Yes.
we adjourn, I want to ask Dr. Williamson, do you know of any cases that we might have, COVID cases, that we might have in the school system?
Thank you for asking that question. We do not have a cluster that is 5 or more individuals in a classroom or in an area. Our temperature checks and all of that is catching folks with elevated temperatures, and we send them home for a minimum of 3 days. We do have some individuals that once we sent them home over that period of time, they got tested. They tested positive, but we can say to you and to all the members without any hesitation that we have yet to have somebody sitting in our building that was positive. So again, we don't have any clusters. Yes, we don't have any clusters. The health department would report that. That is their responsibility. But we do have some employees, once we send them home and they spent that time, a lot of it is just due to exposure of a family member. But at this point in time, to our knowledge, we have not had a single individual in our building that was positive. Some ended up.
Thank you. Right. Okay.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Thank
Very
you so
good.
much. Yeah.
So our next board meeting was scheduled will be for October the 13th. Will that be at 6:15? Would that be at 6:30, Dr. Williamson?
Yes, our normal time, unless the board wants to change that time to an earlier time, we can do that. If you want to move it from 6:30 to an earlier time and let that be the norm, then we can do that.
Let's do a 10 o'clock online meeting like we are now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Well, if we do that, Hank, we're trying. I think what the purpose of meeting was, and I can't be mistaken, was because since the children have went back to school, and everybody's back, then we wanted to lead by example. Am I correct, Dr. Williamson?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, you know, with that case saying, 100% of the students are not back. Only about 60% of the students are back.
Right.
So you can have it back at times, or you can have it online at times. We still have the opportunity to do both. If we still have someone that's not feeling quite comfortable to
Right.
be back
Right.
together.
Okay.
That is not a problem.
We need to leave it so that you can have it in person if you want to, or if somebody wants to go, and if somebody still do not feel comfortable that they prefer online, I think we need to leave it that way because that's the way the school system is set up.
Right. Okay.
From a personal note, I did not go to my sister's memorial service at Arlington this morning. I have a hard time going out in other public settings.
Right.
Not knowing I sacrificed something very dear to me.
We recognize that, Mr. Richards, so that's the reason we said if you don't feel comfortable, you can do it online. If you feel those that feel comfortable can have it, go back in this setting. But either one would be okay. We want everybody to feel comfortable.
Yeah, I was just making the point. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know what you were saying, Rosa, but I'm just letting you know that we have the option now, even with the school, to go online or to be in person.
So for clarification, the next
Yeah.
board meeting will provide members opportunity for face-to-face or online, correct?
Yes, right,
Okay.
right.
And the 6:30 start time, did you want to back that up, or would that work?
Oh.
Now,
Madam Chair.
now Rosa, with Rosa working, all of them working on that board, we would have to look at her schedule.
Right.
Rosa,
Yes.
would you want it at 10 or would you want it at 6? So, because with me, it won't matter with us that are retired.
Right.
We know your schedule.
Which would you rather do, Rosa?
I would have to look at my schedule. We can do it at 10. We can do it at 10. And what is it? October the 13th?
October
Yes.
13th, yes.
Ms. Murkison, would that 10 o'clock start time work for you?
Yes, that would work for me.
Okay. So then our next meeting is November the 13th. I'm sorry.
Is it November?
October the 13th,
October.
starting at 10 a.m. with the option of face-to-face or remote.
Zoom, okay.
May I ask a question? And
Yeah.
I'm not asking for answers now, but if there's
Yes.
not going to be the three of us in present physically, should we just go to Zoom all together? Because I don't see any point in two of us showing up or one of us showing up for an open meeting and everybody else is at home. I think that would just make the board look divided somehow. So I think if at least three of us could show up, or none of us show up, I just don't think it's a good thing to have the board split.
Let's see what things look like near October, and then maybe Dr. Williamson, we can make a decision then.
That's right. We may rotate every other month, so there's a lot of options. But as we get closer to the 13th, I will follow up on and make you a recommendation. As it stands now, let's just leave it that the opportunity for online is there at 10 o'clock, and we may for October go online totally, and then look at November as face-to-face and rotate.
Yes, we could do that. But I just want to address Barbara's statement that she made. It will not look like the board is split, whatever decision that's made, because many boards that we're on now, they are going through the same scenario that we are going through. Some are there, some are not. So it really doesn't look like it's split. It's just what you're comfortable with.
Right, but those boards,
many
of those boards have been working that way for a year or two now.
No, because they haven't had to be Zoom for 1 year. This only started since this COVID came in. It hadn't been before. It's been since COVID came in March. But as I said, to everyone, the way they feel, but the board was not saying split, however. But we are used to doing things together, so let's continue to do it together. And I'll put in Dr. Williamson, hand. Let's look at it, and we'll go for Zoom for October, and then for November we'll decide. If that's okay.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, may we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Somebody
Della, second.
It's been moved by Sister Rosa and second by Della that we will adjourn to October 13th at 10 o'clock on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All in favor? Let me know my time by.
Aye.
Hank, aye.
Aye. Della, aye.
Rosa, aye.
Ayes have it. So the meeting been a Zoom till October 13th. Thank you.
All right.
I love y'all.
Have a good
Thank
day.
y'all.
You too.
Blessings, stay well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.